Ah, shit. Get your tea and your popcorn because we have hit yet another psychological jackpot. Miss Olandria. You know, the same one who Nick refused to claim as his girlfriend. By the way, I was actually planning on making a video about this about a week ago because Nick recently was featured in an article where they were asking him his relationship status, and he still refused to claim Olandria as his girlfriend. By the way, this is after Olandria claimed him as her boyfriend.
My boyfriend's going to show you his favorite drink, and you better be nice.
This is agua de kefir, made from a water kefir. Has 4 delicious ingredients: postbiotics, minerals, electrolytes, and last but not least, love. Dragon Fresso.
They did like a little TikTok parody. It was a skit, so you could argue that, oh, she was just kidding when she said he was her boyfriend. Either way, imagine calling a man your boyfriend and then he goes on an international interview and then he doesn't claim you publicly. So that was my original reason why I was going to make a video. But this morning, I was scrolling on my TikTok. By the way, be sure to follow the Exoticals on TikTok. I think I have like 300 followers or something. But I was scrolling on TikTok and there's a picture of Olandria with a different man. So, like I said, Nick was never genuine. I was right from the beginning. Nick was always my least favorite person on Love Island because he was very performative.
Y'all want some tea?
Yes.
Nick has been in an open relationship before. And that was one of the first things he told me within our first conversation.
He is very much one of those men that just wants to be popular. That was very obvious in the villa, and it's very obvious outside of the villa. Because remember, Nick started off with Bella. Bella wouldn't sleep with him. She wouldn't do him any sexual favors, so then he dumps Bella. And then he gets with Sierra, who is more willing to be physical with him. He wasn't paying Olandria shit. He was paying Olandria dust. And then once Sierra gets banned from the villa for being racist against Asians, meanwhile, Nick himself was racist against Asians on his TikTok. Be sure to check out my former videos about Nick's racism against Asians on his TikTok. But once Sierra gets banned, then Nick changes his tune and pretends as if he was just so in love with Olandria this whole time and he was just so into her. So, you know, he goes into his typical performative mode. Also, I just want to remind you that Nick is a Florida Trump supporter, okay? So before he was even in the villa, he was reposting stuff that was in support of Trump. So for all of those people in the black community that are trying to speak out against ICE, or for all of the people who say that Trump is racist and Trump supporters are racist, okay, well then you support a racist man, Nick, because him and his family, not only are they Republicans, they are Florida Republicans. Florida is notorious for its racism, colorism, texturism, and features. Remember that Club Mona thing where the unambiguous woman lied and said that they were racist against her? Yeah, that was in Florida. So the racism in Florida and the culture there amongst Republicans or white people is so racist to the point that people believe that you can't even get into certain clubs if you're dark skinned. I mean, I don't really believe that to be true, but I'm just trying to paint a picture of where Nick comes from. That is Nick's cultural background, okay? On top of that, I also want to point out that Nick always used to defend Huda. So for all the unambiguous black women who love Olandria and dislike Huda, well, guess who was BFFs with Huda in the villa? I'm in the middle of editing right now, and I just had to insert this in there. So you are telling me that a man who supports a political party that is rumored to be racist, a politician that is rumored to be racist, a man who made a racist hashtag about Asians and was caught on TikTok saying the N-words, and his friends were also saying the N-word, and then he supports Huda, who supposedly laughed at someone saying the N-word. So you're saying that Nick comes from a completely racist culture and hangs out with racist people and has been accused of racism several times, yet Nick himself is not racist. Guess who was the only one standing up for Huda in the villa? It was Nick. And also, I never really liked how Nick interacted with Huda because I always felt like he was a little bit too flirty with Huda. And I'm like, Nick, you are with Sierra. Why are you always hugged up on Huda? And then it's like, you know, your relationship is you're just quote unquote friends. I don't like when male friends are constantly pushing boundaries. Why is it that every female friend that Nick had in the villa, he was always touching on her or kissing on her? Oh, well, it's Love Island. Okay, but that tells you his character, though. So, not to mention the fact that Nick He also had nowhere to live. Okay, so Nick definitely didn't want to go home when it was time for eliminations at Love Island. So the stakes were higher for Nick. So he was more desperate to stay in the villa. And like I said, Olandria was always his meal ticket. And then after they got out of the villa, Nick and Olandria together were more popular than what they would have been if they were apart. I mean, I personally feel like Olandria is more popular than Nick. I see more women standing over Olandria. But I will say, I don't think that black women would stand Olandria if Olandria would have ended up with someone black. Or if Olandria would have been single, I don't think that you'd have as many black women standing her. I think they're only standing her because she is with a non-black man. And Nick is playing into this. He's playing into his fan base. And if you don't believe me, just go and look at Nick's Instagram right now. Go look at the people commenting and go look at who the main people are who run all of these Nicolandria pages. Is it white men who run these pages? Absolutely not. It's unambiguous black women who are really divestors and swirlers. You know, they're living vicariously through Olandria, even though it's not a real relationship. It's for PR purposes. And for those of you who are like, oh, well, you know, Olandria should just get her bags. Why do you think that Olandria needs a white man, though, in order for her to get her bags? So it's hilarious how people try to imply that the exoticals are colorist, texturist, and features. You're actually a colorist because you're implying that Olandria can't succeed without Nick. You're basically saying Olandria needs a white man on her arm in order to be popular and acceptable. And I disagree. I feel like she doesn't. I think she could have been just fine on her own while decentering Nick. But instead, they decided to promote this little relationship. You know, Olandria was over here implying that he was her boyfriend. And then when they finally did an interview with Nick a few weeks ago, Nick literally refused to claim her. And if you don't believe me, go and look up the articles. I will show as many screenshots as possible. Give me one screenshot. Give me one video where Nick says, Olandria is my girlfriend. She is my woman. We are in a relationship. Give me one video where he says that. And for the people who are saying, oh, well, even Olandria's mom came out and said that she likes how Nick treats Olandria. Okay, just because someone treats you nice, that's not the same as him being your boyfriend. A man could be treating you nicely and still be fucking other women. So just because somebody gets you flowers or something, that means nothing. So all of these Nicolandria fans who worship Nick, they keep on projecting a false image that Nick and Olandria are, you know, in love and they're going to get married, yet there's no proof of that. And don't forget that Love Island, so their coupling started about 4 months ago. The season ended in July. Okay, it is now November at the time of this recording. So you're telling me that you're supposed to be dating and emotionally investing into a man from July, August, September, October, November, almost 5 months, damn near half a year. And that man is still not sure if he wants to be in a relationship with you. But I thought that Olandria is so great and wonderful, right? She's so great. She's so wonderful. She's so beautiful and perfect. And Nick is also a perfect Prince Charming. So then why is he still not claiming her after almost a half a year? That's crazy to me. You met her parents. She met your parents. You know, you're working together. You're doing all this stuff together, yet you still can't claim her. So this proves my point in what I said about Nick. Nick wants to have his cake and eat it too. So he doesn't mind making the public believe that he's interested in Olandria. Having interest in someone is not the same as commitment. So even if Nick is interested in Olandria, that's still not the flex that you think it is. Because someone being interested in you and then someone committing to you monogamously and claiming you and celebrating you publicly, those are two different things. That's different than being coworkers. And by the way, you can be a black woman and be decentered from men. You don't need to post photos with a man next to you in order to be valuable. But fast forward to today, I saw a picture of Olandria and a model. I can't remember his name right now, but I can put it on the screen. There's a picture of her holding hands with another male model. So the reason that this is starting a stir on the internet is because Olandria has only ever been photographed in couples photo shoots with Nick. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just a modeling job that she's doing with another man. Okay, well, if the point of the brand was they wanted to have her photographed with a man, why not just have Nick do it? Nick looks very similar to this guy here. So if they wanted a brunette, you know, a tall brunette man that's in shape, why couldn't they have just chosen Nick? That would have made their brand have even more popularity, right? Because now you got 2 Love Island cast members instead of just 1. So that doesn't make sense. Also, I have a photo. I have photos from their Instagram stories. This photo here of them holding hands in the public in the dark, that was not a part of the photo shoot. They actually posted a story of what the actual photo shoot set was. This is not on the set. People are saying that this photograph happened after some sort of after party that evening. So let's just be logical here. If you are in love with someone and you want to marry that person, such as Nick and Olandria, even though it's fake, but people are saying, oh no, they love each other, they're going to get married. Okay, so why would you allow your future wife to go out and party with another man and then be pictured holding hands with that man, especially if you love that woman so much? Wouldn't you want to be there? As a matter of fact, where was Nick? Wouldn't Nick be here at the photo shoot supporting her or something like that? Why is she being photographed with another man when historically they've only ever been photographed with each other? Also, if you don't think this is weird, let's go ahead and reverse it. Let's say it would have been Nick pictured with another unambiguous dark-skinned black girl who looks just like Olandria late at night holding her hand. People would be like, what the fuck? Why is he with some other random black girl? Where's Olandria? Also, I don't see Olandria on the internet clearing this up. I don't see Nick on the internet clearing this up. Also, a couple weeks ago, I saw the post from Sierra. By the way, you guys know in the exotical space, we love keeping up with the tea. We love it when people from Black YouTube try to gaslight us because we will actually go back and track those people in real time. We've been tracking Ekane, we've been tracking Fanita, and now we're tracking Olandria. But on Sierra's story, Sierra is the woman that Nick was with before Olandria, and then it was only after Sierra got eliminated that suddenly Nick, he's on the verge of homelessness. Suddenly he likes Olandria. And it's like, if you really liked her that bad, she was in the house the whole time. Why did you not try to go on a date with her or talk to her or try to kiss on her and all that shit? Like how you did with Bella and Sierra. Why is it that you only kissed Olandria during the challenges? You didn't need to kiss Bella and Sierra during the challenges. You were willing to go up and take photos with them. You were willing to be photographed with them in the villa. Why did you not have the same energy with Olandria until after Bella and Sierra are gone? But that's another video for another day. But people are saying that on Sierra's Instagram story, I did see a clip of her story where she was at a party, Nick was in the background, Olandria was nowhere in sight, and then Sierra on the Instagram story, she was playing that song Don't Ya by the Pussycat Dolls, Don't You Wish Your Girlfriend Was Hot Like Me? And also there's a rumor that said that Sierra said something along the lines of, every time Olandria kisses Nick, she is tasting my punani. And by the way, another reason that I don't like Nick is because on the Love Island reunion, when they asked Nick about Sierra, Nick basically said that the main reason he was mad at Sierra was because Sierra didn't reach out to him. Well, Nick, if you're so in love with Olandria and you really like her, and if Olandria is your first choice anyway, why would you get mad that Sierra didn't message you? Why would you be mad about your ex? That would be like if your boyfriend says he's mad because his ex didn't message him. It's like, what? Do you want to be with the ex? Like, why are you even thinking about somebody that you used to be with? So that was another red flag. I didn't like that Nick, during the reunion, he didn't come on and be super into Olandria. He wasn't saying, hey, this is my girlfriend. I really love her. I want to be with her. I value her outside of the show. I value her outside of the Love Island franchise. But no, instead you've got Nick using Nicolandria, and he's riding Olandria's coattails so that he can attain more money. Because do you really think that Nick is a provider? Nick is fresh out of college. He just graduated college a couple of years ago. He had nowhere to live at the time of the show because he was out traveling. He has kind of this beach bum type of, he's like one of those types of guys. He's like, oh, I'm just a nomad. Oh, I live with my parents. That's basically what he was doing. He lived with his parents. But when Sierra was posting all of these crazy digs, Sierra has been throwing jabs at Olandria. She's been throwing jabs at Nicolandria several times. And so has Ace, by the way. So it's like you got a bunch of people throwing jabs at Nicolandria saying that it's for PR. Yet I didn't see Nick come out, not once. Not once did Nick ever come out and say, hey, this is not a PR relationship. This is not a co-working relationship. I am not trying to ride Olandria's coattails. I am not trying to build my fame off of the backs of black women and use them as my mules, because that's exactly what's going on here. Olandria doesn't need Nick. Nick needs Olandria. So therefore, Nick is using Olandria as his social mule. Do you know what a lot of men will do? You know how they say, oh, men will mess up their reputation, then they use a black woman to clean up their reputation. Yeah, that's Nick. Nick was my least favorite person in the villa. Nick was one of the biggest players. You know, he was one of the biggest hoes, basically, in the villa. He was very two-faced. Nick also has a history of racism against Asians, and he is also an avid Trump supporter, and so are his parents. So, you know, depending on your political beliefs, that's his background. But in order to clean up his image, he wants to attach to Olandria, because that's going to build his fan base. If he would have stayed attached to Sierra publicly, obviously that's not going to help him. If you look at everything Nick does, he is just following Olandria's lead. He is not a protector and provider. He is not a leader in that relationship. By the way, that relationship doesn't even exist. They're not in a relationship at all. They're literally just, you know, talking. They're in the talking stage for damn near 6 months. I thought that was dusty. I thought staying in the talking stage with a man for that long, I thought that is a sign that he's not that into you. Imagine being in the talking stage with a man while he's out fucking other women, or while he's allowing you to be disrespected by Sierra. So Olandria going out and allowing these photos to surface and circulate of her with another man, could this be Olandria clapping back? And basically saying, you know, if you're not going to claim me publicly, then here I am with this other man. And by the way, please be sure to look up this man, because this man, I can't remember his name right now, but I looked him up earlier this morning. He has a terrible reputation. Even worse than Nick. Like, this man's reputation with women is even worse. But if I were to examine Nick's social climbing strategy, Nick is chronically online. So much so to the point where he's actually being made fun of for being chronically online. Nick is on the internet begging to be cast in Shrek 2. He also is experimenting. You know, he wanted to be a DJ, then he wanted to be a food reviewer. Now he's saying he wants to be in Shrek, or not Shrek 2. I think I said Shrek 2. There are like 5 different Shrek movies, but he's begging to be in the Shrek movie. He had deleted his Twitter because he didn't like that people were calling him out on Twitter. Okay, so Nick is very performative. He's very much just based on popularity. He doesn't come off as a man with a lot of purpose. If you were to compare Nick to Olandria, Olandria is booked and busy. Olandria already said she wanted to do modeling. So Olandria is out doing modeling. Nick is riding her coattails. He's jumping from job to job, not sure what he wants to do. And then he was BFFs with Huda in the villa. And he originally picked Bella and Sierra first. And by the way, none of Nick's exes or women that he was interested in look like Olandria. So you know how women say, oh, I don't want to be the dark-skinned experiment. Okay, well, that's exactly how this is coming off with Nick. And as far as Nick and Sierra, Nick is not addressing Sierra, and he's also not, he's trying to pretend that Sierra doesn't exist publicly because he knows that Olandria fans will drag him. He knows that. He doesn't want to be dragged by the black community. Nick is scared of the black community. He's scared of black people. I said what I said. Nick is scared of black people. Quote me. He is. He's scared of black people. He's scared of Olandria's fan base. So he's essentially being bullied. You know, he's kind of being bullied into being Olandria's boy toy or Prince Charming. He's just following along with what the biggest fan base wants him to do. So he's kind of like, okay, all of these women want me to be with Olandria. It's making me popular. It's causing me to have more followers. Okay, so then I'll be with Olandria. But he sure isn't claiming her, though. He still is acting single. You know, he's making sure to still portray himself as single. He's making sure that the whole world knows that him and Olandria are not in a relationship. And then he had the audacity to say that people are pressuring him. You know, he was saying that he felt pressured to get into a relationship. Why would you feel pressured if you love her? What do you mean pressured? How are people on the internet making you feel pressured, Nick? Could it be that you are a clout-chasing people pleaser and you're just trying to go based off of what the popular opinion is? Because if you genuinely liked Olandria from day one, you wouldn't feel pressured at all. You definitely wouldn't want her to stay on the dating market. Usually if a man is really into a woman, he doesn't just stay in the talking stage and, just go fuck other women or allow people to disrespect her. Oh, and by the way, the whole N-word thing happened recently, and Nick didn't take it seriously. He wasn't going out of his way to, stand up for the black community or Olandria at all. And by the way, I have seen Sierra all over social media liking posts of Nick and Olandria. So it comes off as if Sierra is almost mocking it. So you're telling me that Ace called them out for being a fake relationship. Sierra is calling out Nick for being a disingenuous a-hole altogether. I am calling out Nick. Several other people have called out Nick. But instead of listening to all of us, you're randomly just going to go with this fantasy that Nick and Olandria are in love and that Nick is not using Olandria as a mule, as a social mule. Nick and Olandria very much gives Jonathan Majors and Megan Good. That's what it gives. And I'm not saying that Nick is as bad as Jonathan Majors. He is pretty bad, though, in other ways. Nick never gave me wholesome vibes. He never gave wholesome when he was in the villa. He very much gave ho. He will sleep with any, kind of exotic looking woman of color with tan skin and dark hair. He was clearly into like brunettes, kind of a tan look, very similar to him, kind of like a tan brunette. So that's what Nick gave. He valued women based on the sexual attention they would give him. Olandria wasn't really giving him sexual attention in the villa from day one. So that's why he never paid attention to Olandria. Also, I went through Nick's Instagram and he is following, not only is he following a lot of booty models, kind of those sexy IG baddies, not only is he following a lot of those women, but he's also following Jaden. I find that interesting, seeing as he tried to hit on Jaden and then once he got rejected by Jaden, then he went to Olandria. Imagine the man you love. I mean, if they're supposed to be in a relationship and together, why would you allow, or why would a man who claims to love you so much, or a man that's supposed to be serious about you, why is he following a woman that he hit on before you? A woman that he always tried to get with, but she rejected him. How do you think things would have played out if Jaden would have accepted Nick's advances? And a lot of people forget, a lot of black women are forgetting that Olandria and Nick would not be together had Sierra not gone home. Nick wouldn't even be with Olandria. He was talking to Bella, he was talking to Sierra, he was talking to Jaden before Olandria. So 3 different women had to not work out with him within the span of 2 weeks, which is already a red flag, by the way. He's clearly not the best at picking. Nick is clearly not great at discernment. But it's like, okay, Nick already had 3 failed things happen before he ended up with Olandria. And he's still following Jaden to this day. By the way, I also saw Nick partying it up with the baddies. The baddies? The TV show where they like fight each other and shit? It's a bunch of women like being ratchet, throwing drinks and all that. Yeah, Nick was out there partying with them. And by the way, I'm not saying that he wasn't getting paid to party with the baddies, but isn't that interesting? Like, why is my boyfriend out at night partying with, a bunch of other black women who are basically ratchet, a bunch of drunk, belligerent black women from the baddie's house? Like, how does that help his brand? I mean, I'm just curious. I'm curious to know how that strategically helps Nick's brand, because I don't see Olandria hanging out in those types of spaces. So that tells you a little bit more about Nick's character. Clearly, he's not the most discerning man. Clearly, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. And this is the man that you got black women pedestalizing? Because that says more about what you think of Olandria versus Nick. If you think that Nick is the perfect match for Olandria, I would argue that you are a potential colorist, texturist, featurist, or racist. If you think that that's the absolute best that Olandria can do is being with Nick, my question is why? But he's following Jaden, he's following Bella still on Instagram. Would you allow a man, your boyfriend, if it was some girl he was dating before you and they had made out and he tried to sleep with her, would you allow him to follow her on Instagram? Is that normal? I mean, why would he want to be keeping up with these other women? Why would he want to see these women's bikini shots and stuff to pop up on his timeline? If he's so in love and so enamored with Olandria, why would that be happening? But going back to the shots of Olandria with this model, Yeah, that was not a part of the whole photo shoot. Also, even if it was a part of a photo shoot, why is she doing a photo shoot with another man to begin with? Especially a man who looks like Nick. And if it's a PR stunt, why not just do it big and just do it with your man, right? Since you guys are boyfriend, girlfriend, you guys work together, you're known for constantly working together, why would you randomly throw a third man into the mix? So it comes off like it's not all sunshine and rainbows in Nicolandria land. And like I said, I didn't see Olandria clearing the air. I didn't see Nick clearing the air. I saw Olandria posting about having a press week. So if it's your press week, why would you not clear up negative press about your precious relationship? In fact, it's not even Olandria's responsibility to do that, right? Shouldn't her man, the protector and provider, Nick, Mr. Prince Charming, shouldn't he be the one to clear up any negative rumors about his woman potentially dating or talking to another man? What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.